What's up, everybody? Everybody hear me okay?
You look pretty official with the background.
Yeah, that's what I was going for. You know, even if we're not, I look it, right? Got to look the part. All righty. Let's see.
Oh, sorry. Were we supposed to dress up for this?
Yeah, right. Shirt and tie.
I dressed up, Andy.
I can see that, Tim. You're looking good, buddy.
Rocking the t-shirt, dog.
I just dressed up with the background.
Oh, man.
Dude, what's up with... Never mind. I'm an idiot. We'll give everybody a few more minutes to hop on. We still got some people joining before we get going here. If anybody has any really cool stories they want to share with the group, feel free to chime in.
I would say that, and I brought this to the last level, 1, level 2. I have, for somebody that's probably about 5'10", 100 and between 180 and 200 pounds, I have referee jerseys, pants, some other kinds of things like that I will just give to somebody if somebody out there needs them. Just contact me and we'll find a way to get them to you.
I have to say, if you don't have anybody reach out to you, Dior, just try and get a picture over to Matt. He can put it on our website too, on the.
All right.
See it easier for someone, or even on Facebook or anything, and just see if anybody wants to claim them. Hey, Zoom Master, how do I make it so that I don't have to keep letting people into the room? Can you just make it so that they just pop in when they show up, or do I have to continue to admit people in?
So it's a setting when you set up the meeting.
Yeah, I knew that. I just wasn't sure if I could just be like, okay, everyone, just join
I
in.
think you have to.
If you click down on participants, you should have the option to turn that off.
Oh, sweet.
Click down. Oh. I click on participants and it just says close, minimize, pop out is all. Oh, that's
Are
fine.
you the host of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just keep looking to see if anybody pops in. No big deal. Good turnout. I'm actually surprised. All right, we won't waste too much of your guys' time tonight. I like to start off just kind of by kind of giving everybody a rundown of how many games kind of we've seen the last few months, this month, kind of top performers, things like that, who's working the most games, just kind of a little pick me up. So let me share my screen here. Somewhere. All right, can everybody see that? Good? Yes? No?
Yes. Good.
Sweet. Okay, so just kind of a quick recap. So October, obviously that was last month, 636 games. November, we just barely wrapped up at 678 games. That's a huge number. So kudos to all you guys making time to work games. Right now for December, we've got 551 games in the system. That number obviously is a little bit lower just due to the fact that you've got the Christmas and holidays towards the end of December. So this is a very front half of the month loaded. Obviously, we have a big tournament coming up with My Hockey starting this weekend. So I'm sure most of you guys are working games for that. So just thanks to everybody for working a bunch of games. Here's guys that have worked the most. I guess first I want to say we've had 107 officials work a game this month. To see that number over 100 is fantastic. I know during the really tough times during the middle of COVID and things like that, I mean, this number was probably down in the 50s and 60s. So we've got quite a few new guys on board and are starting to work. Average number of games of people that are working is 12.7 games. You can see these guys here. Carson always up towards the top, 61. Jared Bussell, 44. Fuller, 43. Doug Brown, 42, and Luke Olson, 39. A ton of guys between that 10 and 40 games as well. So appreciate everybody's hard work on that. Like we said, coming up, so this weekend, 118 games, my hockey tournament. Some of you guys probably have noticed the rates in the system for those games. Your board members have been working hard, dealing with some of these different tournaments and stuff we don't have contracts with. We've kind of wheeled and dealed to make sure it's worth your guys' time to take work off and work extra games throughout the weekend. So hopefully you guys are noticing that nice little pay bump for this weekend. And that tournament in January for my hockey, the Grizz Cup, the rates will be the same for that tournament as well. Hopefully that gives you guys enough time to, if you're available to take work off Friday, if that's something that you're willing to do, just reach out to your schedulers, so the rinks you normally work, and let them know that you're looking to get some games for that tournament. 275 games is a ton of games, but we do have, my hockey is going to bring in some officials from where they are, the Philadelphia, Pittsburgh area as well, to help. It's would be impossible for us to cover 275 games in one weekend. That's just not possible. So we'll probably be in the ballpark of half of that. But as you can tell by the emails and stuff going out for this weekend, we're having a hard time covering the 118 game tournament, going with the rest of our men's leagues and all the other youth leagues and everything else that's still going on. So there's also a women's tournament the following weekend up at Steiner. Mike Davies is scheduling that, so if anybody's interested in working those, I know he's still looking for some guys for that. So that's kind of what we have coming up. Tim Tate's on here tonight. He wanted to cover a couple of things as well, so I'm going to turn the time over to Tim and let him cover kind of what he wanted to do, and then we'll go into, I've got a video, and then we'll kind of go over the New Horizon WebRef stuff. So Tim, go ahead, buddy.
Thanks, Andy. Good to see all you guys on here. I'm very pleased with the turnout. I know last month we only had a handful, like 6 or 7 folks that popped in. So thanks for taking the time, freeing up some time this evening. I think most of you know me, but I wasn't able to attend last month's meeting, and depending on when you registered, I may or may not have seen you at the seminars, but I am the state supervisor of officials for USA Hockey, and I'm always just a phone call or an email away if you have any questions or any needs. And Andy and I work very closely together in the background, as well as the rest of the board. So it's good to be with you guys. A couple of things that I wanted to address quickly. So we've had a lot of issues with score sheets that officials have gone back and attempted to change penalty calls after the fact. I was sent one from a high school hockey game the other day where the officials had assessed third man in penalties, which would require game misconduct. And it was written in as third man in game misconduct. And then they had gone back after the fact and they had crossed out the game part of game misconduct and just called it a misconduct on the score sheet. There was no game report sent in the USA Hockey system along with that. And so, the scorekeeper then reached out to me and said, hey, are they allowed to change the score sheet after the fact? because I didn't think they were, but I may not be up to speed on everything. And if they are allowed to, then, you know, was this handled properly? And so I just want to clarify, when you call a penalty in a game, even if you messed it up, what's done is done. You've got to let it stand, let it ride. And if you did err in how you assess the penalty, then you're going to file, when you go do the game report on that after the game on usahockey.com, then that's when you're going to put in the comments, say, hey, this was improperly assessed. It should have been a match penalty instead of a game misconduct, or it should have been a game misconduct instead of just a misconduct, or whatever it may be. In the rule book, there is a casebook question about this. And there's a question that says, what happens if an official assessed a minor penalty at first, but then decides that the penalty was worthy of a larger penalty, like a major penalty in a game misconduct? So in the casebook, it actually says that as long as they make that determination before the stoppage of play is concluded, before they drop the puck to resume the game, then they can go and change that to be a major penalty in a game misconduct. And that they should in fact do that if they feel that that was what was warranted. But once you drop that puck and play resumes, end of story. What's done is done. And the instance that they share in the casebook is an escalation, right? So it's taking it from a minor penalty to a more severe penalty if you felt that the worthiness of that was there. There's not very many usage scenarios where you would ever go from a more severe penalty down to a lesser penalty. Let me address a couple other things, and then I will open it up if there's questions or if people have dropped them into the chat. I haven't seen them yet. So in every instance with game misconducts, match penalties, coaches with 12 penalties on their teams in the game, all of those things, I have to get a game report on them. And we need to do them in a timely fashion. We've had to chase around a few people a few times for game reports, and you know, there was a little tiny glitch in USA Hockey's system for a minute, for like 2 days, where some game reports didn't process the right way, things like that. But it's a very serious matter, and my bosses up the chain take it super seriously. And the instruction is, if an official assesses, you know, a major game misconduct, match penalty, the game report better be right behind it. And if it's not, then there's supposed to be some supplementary discipline, which might mean loss of games, suspension for 5 days, 10 days, whatever it is. It's part of the job to do the administrative side of it too. It's not just showing up to the games and working them. It's making sure that the paperwork's done right, that everything online is done right and in a timely fashion, right? Just a couple of other quick ones. I referenced the 12 penalties and 4 penalties. So again, 12 penalties on a team in a game, that is not a game misconduct to the coach. It's simply that coach is suspended for the next scheduled game of that team. So he's not removed from the game immediately. She's not given a game misconduct, none of that. It's just that they're suspended. And the way that the governing body is going to find out about that is when you go online after the game and submit the incident report about it, right? On the 4 penalty rule, so now it went from 5 to 4, right? So a player gets 4 penalties in a game, they get a game misconduct for that, and they're done for the night. That also requires a game report. And it's not just as simple as, hey, that's your 4th penalty, hit the showers, and you know, nothing on the score sheet, any of that. It actually goes on the score sheet as a game misconduct, and you file the game report after the game. So just want to clarify on those few things, because those have been common areas where we've had some issues so far in the season, where stuff's getting overlooked or maybe not quite processed accurately. Any questions? And let me open my chat box and see if I've missed anybody here. Let's see. Nope.
So I have a question.
Sure.
It sounds like the scenario you talked about where someone went back to change the score sheet was just to correct a mistake, not malicious intent to favor somebody, correct?
Yeah, I don't know what the official's intent was on it. I hope it wasn't malicious. I hope it
Yeah, I
wasn't.
know. No, so my assumption is if
You know.
there's a different issue, that's an ethical issue. But if
Sure.
I were to call a penalty and get the escalation wrong during the game in the heat of the moment,
Right.
you're saying I could then say, well, here's the score sheet, but here is what should have happened, and you can correct that to switch it from a game to a match or whatever else, correct?
That's correct. So
Okay.
let me rephrase. Let's say that you're officiating a game and there's like let's say it's maybe a boarding call or something, and you assess. Well, actually, no, I'm going to use a real life scenario. This actually happened in a game, and I had to deal with a bunch of complaints from USA Hockey, or from Utah High School Hockey, rather, about it. So we had an incident in a game where a kid was hit from behind in open ice. It wasn't against the boards or anything, but he was hit from behind in open ice, and the officials missed the hit. So no penalty was assessed. And the kid that was hit from behind was obviously upset, right? So he stands up and he goes over, kind of cross checks the kid that hit him. Kid that hit him cross checks him back. And then the kid who had been hit originally winds up with his stick and takes a baseball swing at the kid's head, like full on tries to knock his block off right at center ice, right? And he didn't actually connect with the stick motion. The kid kind of saw it coming and got his fist up, and so it hit him in like the side of the head, but on his glove, right? And so the officials that were working the game called a 5-minute major in game misconduct for head contact. And I'm sorry, like for me, a 5-minute major in a game misconduct for head contact, I mean, that can be a lot of different things, but when a kid winds up with like a full-blown baseball swing and is going straight for face and head, that's a match penalty all day long, every day, per USA Hockey, right? It's intent to injure. It's not a hockey play, like not even remotely so, right? And so in that particular instance, even though it was a good thing that the officials at least went with the 5 in the game, the correct penalty to be assessed there would have been a match penalty, right? So we look at it after the game, we see the video and everything, and that determination is made. And I said, hey, this is what it actually should be. So they file a supplementary report, incident report online, right? Saying, hey, this is what we witnessed, this is what occurred, this was the penalty that was assessed, and this is the penalty that should have been assessed. And then from there, I get to handle it up the chain with USA Hockey and with Utah High School Hockey and stuff to make sure that that player is appropriately handled, right? So that may have been more info than you needed, but hopefully, I know some people learn better by example. Hopefully that's an example where, if you get something a little bit off, it's not a problem. It happens, learn from it, and then file the supplementary report. So
It's helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
So, Tim, this is also kind of an integrity of the officiating, right? It doesn't allow you to make that change. Like a coach can't approach you and say, hey, you shouldn't have given my guy a game misconduct or something like that, right? It makes it so that there's a separate set of eyes looking at that situation.
Yeah.
So that the integrity of the call stays there, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, if officials had the power to decide, oh, I don't want that to be a game misconduct, I want that to be a misconduct, or I don't want that to be a major anymore, it should have been, if that were the case, then you would have nonstop debates between coaches, captains, officials, everybody all day long, every day. And it would damage the integrity of it, right? So you make your determination. Hopefully it's the right one. And if it's not, then we have a way to remedy it, So I saw a little hand raised by Bentley Hari. Do you have a question?
Yes, it's not related to the what we're talking about right now. A lot of family, friends of my family is wondering, do we have any interest in having another reffing class?
Yeah, yeah. I've had a few people reach out, and Andy and I would have to talk about it some more and look at potential dates for it. I'm not completely opposed to the idea. I don't think it's realistic that we would have one in the month of December with the holidays and everything. I think it would be a January thing if we were able to do it at all. So,
All right. All right. Thank you.
yep. Okay, I was trying to think if I feel like there's one other quick thing, and then I want to bounce so that Andy and the board members who have prepared have plenty of.
Quick question.
Sure.
So going back to where the ref made a mistake on the score sheet there.
Yeah.
So if it turns out that like let's say you put game misconduct as only a misconduct, and then you go back and fix it, does that player miss that game then, or what would be the scenario there if it was a mistake and just got written down wrong?
Okay, so let me clarify your question so that I make sure I answer it properly. So what you're saying is, like, you throw a kid out of the game, but you go to sign off on the score sheet and you notice that it's listed as a misconduct instead of a game misconduct, even though you gave the kid a game misconduct. Is that the question, or did I misunderstand?
Yeah. It's just like if the scorekeeper misheard you and wrote it down, but
Yeah.
and you turned out that it was the other way.
Yeah.
And
So
it was recorded.
I guess the point of the dialogue is this. So that brings up two different things. One thing is, as officials, we have the responsibility to review the score sheet at the end of the game and make sure that everything is accurate, right? And you actually have to sign the score sheet and attest to the fact that you reviewed it and that everything was accurate. So if I give a kid a game misconduct, and then I go to sign off on my score sheet at the end of the game, and I notice that it's on the score sheet as a misconduct instead of a game misconduct, then I need to have the scorekeeper correct that to reflect the penalty that was actually assessed before I sign off on the score sheet as being a done deal and correct, right? What I'm saying with the other example is, if you assess a game misconduct to a kid in the middle of the game and he's thrown out of the game, and then you go to sign off on the score sheet at the end and you go, man, I don't know if I got that right. I'm just going to change that to a misconduct. I'm going to scratch out game. Or I don't think anybody on this call would do this. Heaven forbid. I'd be not happy if it happened, right? But if somebody went and was like, man, I don't feel like filling out an incident report tonight, I'm just going to, that's not a game misconduct. That's a misconduct because I don't want to deal with the paperwork. Those are the things that absolutely cannot happen, right? You can't go back after the fact and say, I think I was too harsh on that kid. I'm just going to change it, lower it down, whatever. It can't happen. So that was what I was discussing on the other point. So.
Okay. Yeah. That clarifies it. Thank you.
Yep. No worries.
Well, we don't like to admit that this might ever happen, but what if it is a situation where, in the heat of the moment, someone was barking at us and we started barking at them, and we realized that, it didn't rise to that level until we caused it to.
Yeah.
Would that be a situation where, now that I've had 10 minutes to calm down myself and, that, yeah, maybe a game was a little bit over the top versus just a misconduct?
So it goes back to, I'll just harp on it again. Whatever you assessed is a done deal. Like, you have to stick by it. So for instance, if you give a coach a game misconduct for abuse of officials or a player, and then afterwards you're like, dang it, like, that was as much my fault as it was his fault. Like, I shouldn't have approached like that, whatever. I was too harsh. Unfortunately, at that point, what is done is done. That coach or that player's got their game misconduct. you can put it in the incident report, and I would appreciate that you would, right? You could put in the incident report and say, you know, this was the situation. This is how it played out. This is why I assessed the penalty that I did. You know, I also might have contributed whatever, and then at least I know that, and the governing bodies at B know that. And if they, you know, that's the other thing too, is if high school hockey, USA Hockey evaluates a situation and they want to, you know, do something different with a suspension or supplemental discipline, then they can, right? But what you call is what you call. So, and please don't do that, guys. Like, for real, like if you go over to a bench and you choose to engage with a coach, or if you choose to engage with a player and things get heated, take the higher road and skate away from that. And then if it persists, right, if the coach just won't let up, if the player won't let up, then go ahead and assess the proper penalty, right? But I would say don't do that if you feel that you're provoking that behavior as well, right? Like, separate yourself from the instance, give it a second to simmer down, and if it continues to be a problem throughout the game, then use your rule book, right? So, okay, I think that's pretty much a wrap for me.
Tim, you have a question in the chat.
Oh, shoot. I'm so bad at looking at the chat, guys. I'm sorry. All right, so Bentley, do we need to do the models for, so sorry, Bentley, what do you mean by model?
Modules.
Oh, the modules. Okay. So are you a new official this year? I forget. Is this your first season?
Yes, me and my brother, this is our first season. My
Okay.
brother hasn't gotten games yet, but I've got a lot of games. I'm working on the modules, but my brother's wondering, and yeah.
So if you're a level 1 official, then attending the seminar in person was the only requirement for you on the modules. You still have access to the modules online, because the hope is that you guys will still go view them on your own time and try to do some continuing education, right? But if you attended a seminar in person, then you're good to go. You wouldn't even have your card and your crest, and you wouldn't be able to be officiating right now if they hadn't processed all that. So you're good.
All right, thank you. Just want to make sure.
For any of you guys on here who are returning officials and maybe haven't completed all of your registration requirements for the new year, today is the day, y'all. It is November the 30th, and that means that last year's registration is no longer valid as of tomorrow morning. So
Really quick, then, you're saying today's the day before we ref our next game is the need.
That's right. So meaning, like, if you have games tonight, you're still good. Your card and crest from last year is still applicable, but as of tomorrow, we can't use you on games for USA Hockey sanctioned games if you haven't completed New Year's registration requirements yet. So I bring that up because Andy talked about the game load, and we need each and every person, you know, available and ready and willing to go, right? So if you need to take a little time and wrap up modules or take your open book test or whatever you got to do to get it processed, do so as soon as possible, please. So, okay, I think I'm good on my end, guys. I appreciate a few minutes. My contact details are on the Waihoa website as well. So if there's any way I can assist, let me know. And Andy, appreciate you.
No,
man.
thanks, Tim. I just wanted to add about the game reports, right? Like some of you newer officials that maybe haven't done them before and run across things, like feel free to shoot us an email, send us a picture of the score sheet, kind of send us what you wrote down on the back. If you need help filling it out, where to go, kind of how to go about that. Please feel free to reach out to us, one of the board members, any of us, we can help you guys get those filled out. I would say that's probably one of the number one things our newer officials tend to miss or kind of in error are those game reports. The USA Hockey's website's not as friendly as I'd like it to be for those. They can be challenging to find a player, find a coach, or find something on there. So please feel free to reach out. I know it sounds dumb, but the more information you put in when searching for a player or searching for a coach, the less it pulls out, right? So if you're
Yeah,
looking
the harder
for
it
a
is.
coach,
Yeah.
put in the last name and the state. Don't put in the level. Don't put in all of that other stuff, because 9 times out of 10 it doesn't pull up what you're looking for. So don't worry about all the other information. Pretty much last name, first letter initial possibly, and the state. And it might pop up 10 or 12 people, but it'll actually show who you're looking for. So not the most
Andy,
user friendly, but please reach out and get help if you need it.
hey, Andy, as you were talking, I thought of 2 things, and they're quick things, but
Sure, go ahead.
on the incident report. So I saw in the chat a question about where to find it. So if you just go on the USA Hockey website on the officials tab, there's actually a link for submit an incident report. Or if you go to the page that shows your registration status, like where you went to do an open book exam and to do Safe Sport if you're old enough to do that, all that stuff. Oh, you're going to pull it up. Look at you.
I'll pull it up here really quick. I have it right here. So as you log into your account, guys, you're going to click on my profile up here, officiating information, and there's the link right here, report incident.
Yep.
Okay. So you have to make a couple clicks, then report incident. It'll pop up, fill out all your information, search. Like I say, if you need help with any of that, please just reach out to somebody so we can get you in the right direction. But it is on your profile. Make a couple of clicks and get into that officiating information under your profile, and that's where you're supposed to fill those out.
Okay, so then the other quick one was score sheets. So Andy mentioned writing on the score sheet, and I've had scorekeepers saying, oh, the officials don't do it anymore. They say they don't need to anymore. I do want you guys to write on the back of the score sheet on the white copy, not the carbon copies, but on the white copy. If you assess a major game misconduct, match penalty, you need to write it on the back of the score sheet, a brief description of the incident and the number and name of the player that was penalized or the coach, and the rule reference of the penalty that you're giving. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So number one, a good process is, like, stuff gets muddy the longer you wait to submit an incident report. It gets cloudier in your mind about how things played out, right? So it's a good idea to, right after the game, write on the back of the score sheet the description of the incident, and then take your phone in the locker room and take a little picture of it so that you've got something with you when you go home, you know, that night or the next morning and you go to do your incident report. You've got a little snapshot of what happened to remind you, right? Number two, some of the games that we officiate are not USA Hockey games. And when you give a game misconduct or a match penalty in an ISI game, you don't go online and submit an incident report for it because it's not a USA Hockey sanctioned game. So the only way that Salt Lake County Adult League or Youth League or fill in the blank is going to know what happened in that incident and what kind of supplemental discipline may be necessary is what's written on the back of that score sheet and the information that you provide to the league, right? So please don't be cutting corners. If you have an incident like that, write it on the back of the score sheet, take a snapshot on your phone. It'll help you with your incident reports. And then if it's an ISI game, then the powers that be with the leagues can make a decision as to what they want to do with the player or the coach. So that's a wrap for me, for real this time. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Tim. I just want to know why you have Sorry, I just want to know. I just want to know why you have a My Little Pony tab on your screen share.
Me?
Yeah.
My Little Pony, huh? I don't know. I don't see it. Where's it at? I have a daughter. It's okay, Dior. I still don't see it, but all right. All right. Anyway, a lot of good information there. Game reports. like I say, reach out if you need help. We're here to help you guys fill them out, get them done correctly. Just it's kind of like what the associations see from us, other than actually working the game. They get those reports, so the more information, better they're filled out, all the better. So, okay, let me pull up. Any other questions on what Tim covered, or any other questions you want to ask in general while I've just got a quick video that USA Hockey sent out. It's something I've been in contact with quite a few guys on, asking questions about body checking. I know a big chunk of time was spent last month on this call talking about what is a penalty and what is a penalty. And some people are still kind of confused as to the direction we're trying to head. So any questions, comments, anything there?
I have a question on a different penalty call, but we can wait until after you finish this and do it after.
All right, I'm just going to share this quick little video. I'm pretty sure all of you as referees, it came straight from USA Hockey. You probably get a bunch of emails from them and delete them or not look at them, but there's actually a lot of really good information and a lot of good videos and things they send out. So I'm just going to share this video with you guys really quick. It just kind of goes a couple-minute video on body checking, and then we can kind of talk about that briefly before we go into Horizon Web Ref and some other things. So you guys see that?
Although not a new rule for this season, USA Hockey will continue to place emphasis on rules surrounding body checking. Any legal contact needs to occur with the intent to possess the puck, and body checking should never be used to punish or intimidate an opponent. It is the responsibility of the player delivering the check to have their stick on the ice and avoid any dangerous contact, including hits to the head, hits from behind, and late hits. If not, then the contact is deemed illegal. Again, this is not a new rule, but an emphasis on the interpretation around body checking and competitive contact. In this example, the defenseman in white turns to face his opponent with his stick on the ice in a clear effort to win possession of the puck. As he initiates the body check, he is able to win possession and advance the puck up ice, performing a legal body check. In this example, the player in blue initiates contact with his stick on the ice in a clear attempt to win the puck. He takes a good angle and ultimately wins possession for Team Blue with a proper body check. In this example, no body check is performed. However, the skills of proper angling and stick positioning allows the teal player to force a turnover. These skills are taught at younger levels through competitive contact and are a great example of how proper defense can lead to offense. USA Hockey does not want to eliminate body checking. In fact, we are constantly working with our coaches and players to develop the proper skill set of legal body checking. Similar to skating, shooting, and passing, the game of hockey continues to evolve, and so does USA Hockey's emphasis on player development. It is our commitment to develop our players to succeed and thrive. An emphasis on competitive contact at all girls levels and youth 12U levels and younger builds a foundation for proper angling, contact, and winning possession of the puck. These are important skills for younger players to learn at every practice as they advance into body checking leagues at 14U and older. Parents, your support of coaches, officials, and players as they practice these skills is important. With renewed emphasis, education, and communication across our entire sport, there will be a clear standard and understanding for acceptable and unacceptable body checking and competitive contact throughout our rinks this season.
So just a quick video there, right? Like I say, I've had a ton of discussion with guys. There was a bunch of discussion on, okay, hold on a second. Last month on this, everyone's like, oh, I've seen a ton of videos that tell me what's a penalty. This is a penalty. This is a penalty. So what's not a penalty? And I think the best hit in that video there, it was an open ice hit, right? The defenseman's backing up. The player's coming up on him. Pretty decent sized body check. It wasn't just kind of rubbing a guy off, but you saw where his stick was down on the ice. he was playing the puck. He still made pretty considerable body contact. It was legal, as with the shoulder. So everyone's like, oh, you're telling us we can't check anymore. We can't check anymore. And that's not what we're saying. I just think those big, huge blow up hits where both of the guys' hands are up like this, right? Like those are the ones that we need to be calling every time. Don't go to a game and just call everything because it's a decent size hit. Like you can still make a good, decent, solid body check as long as the other variables are there, right? Shoulder, sticks down, things like that. So any questions, comments? Devin had a question or a comment he wanted to talk about. Anybody else on kind of what we're looking for, and are things getting better as your games are going along these last few months?
Andy, I have a quick question. I recently watched a high school game where anything that remotely resembled a check was considered to be a roughing. Could you maybe talk through kind of what that process is?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Like we've all gone from every year, it seems like they're cracking down. And high school maybe here isn't the best examples, I guess you could say. You still see a lot of kids with their hands up and kids going in with no intent to play the puck whatsoever, right? It's those kind of hits that you kind of need to, as an official, every time there's a hit, you almost need to very quickly in your mind ask yourself, are all the variables, is a stick down? Does he look like he's trying to make an attempt on the puck? We're not saying you can't body check the player. Just make sure your stick's down and make sure you're making the contact with the shoulder, right? Not two hands up or your stick parallel, all the things we've talked about, right? Body checking is okay as long as it's done with these new things in mind. It's hard to just split second, like, okay, that's a good one. Okay, that's a bad one, right? Like during a game, it just kind of comes with time. I see Brendan in the chat says video doesn't really show many good examples of open ice hits, right? There was the one, and open ice hits are hard. I know Brendan sent me an email on an open hit, like if a player has his head down or something like that, right? So the wording in the rule book is you're not supposed to hit a vulnerable or a defenseless player, right? If he's looking backwards for a pass from his defenseman and he turns around, he's vulnerable and defenseless at that point. Agreed? Does everyone agree with that? So that's where you can't just go destroy that guy. Like those are the hits they're trying to take out, right? That's a concussion. Those are just injuries waiting to happen. And if the guy doesn't know you're coming, as a defenseman, you don't need to destroy that guy, right? Like you can probably, with the stick, make a good play on the puck and body him off a little. You don't have to just step up and destroy that guy, right? But at the same time, if he does step up and his stick's down and he makes a play on the puck and he gives the guy a really good hit, if all the variables are there, just you have to decide, is the guy vulnerable and defenseless? And what's that? Like that's the gray area. That gray area is never going to go away, right? Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to add the potential for the officials to not call everything a rough. If it's a late hit, that's definitely USA Hockey wants you to call roughing, and you can even have the scorekeeper. I was doing this at the beginning of the year, asking the scorekeeper to put roughing and then parentheses late hit, so they knew why it was roughing. And so as officials, we also need to be careful that we're not just calling everything a rough, right? So if it's head contact, call head contact. If they have two hands on their stick and they're hitting and they're body checking, it's probably a cross check, and so if they're throwing up a high elbow, we have a lot of penalty options. So just make sure you're labeling it appropriately so your score sheet isn't full of roughing penalties.
Yeah, good point.
Can I add one thing too, Andy?
Go ahead, Newer.
The thing that I thought of when we're talking about this is it's entirely possible that in a high school game every hit is a penalty, because nobody's teaching these kids how to hit properly, right? And I go back to the rule change year 4 years ago when they brought in the 2 and 10s, right? It was 4 years ago, right? And it took a certain portion of that season for the coaches and the players and everybody to kind of get on board with what USA Hockey is trying to do, which is essentially they're trying to teach people and tell coaches and players, this is the way the game should be played. And they're doing it with our help through the way the penalties are to be called.
For sure. So, like I say, back to Brendan's question about open ice hits, right? Like the player sees him coming. He's not like looking back. He's not vulnerable. That a big hit is okay. We're not saying a big hit is not okay. As long as the player's stick is down, it's not parallel, his hands aren't up, and things like that. You can still have big hits that are clean. Just because it's a big hit doesn't make it a penalty, which is, I think, where some of the confusion is, right? And the more games you work, I think you'll get more in a groove. As the players are learning new rules, us as officials, our minds have been trained, right, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many ever years you've been doing it. Like, okay, this is a penalty, and now we're having to retrain our brains of like, okay, this is a penalty or this is not a penalty. So I think it'll just kind of come with time, and you'll start to get in a groove of what is a penalty, what is excessive, what's okay, what's not okay. I don't want to harp on that too. Go ahead, Dylan.
So I was in a game the other day with my team, and a ref missed a call. It was an open ice hit, but my teammate didn't see him coming. It was like a full-on head contact, and the ref missed it. What would I call that?
What would you call there?
Yeah, what would the call be?
Yeah, so at that point, right,
It was like
you got
a
head
elbow-
contact, so your minimum is 2 and 10, right, for head contact. That's the absolute minimum penalty for head contact. But then at the same time, you need to ask yourself, what is that? Did he accidentally make head contact, right? Was he trying to make it and it kind of slid up? Was he maliciously going after that player? Did he head contact on purpose? And you go 5 game, right? So you just have to decide in your mind,
Yeah.
like you
No,
have to
'cause he was
decide what
going-
his intent is there.
Right, because he was going there he was going there to injure the kid. Because it was a brutal game with Twilla and NUI.
Yeah, so like
So
I
would it
say,
be
that,
like a
if
5
they deem
game?
it intentional, he's going to injure a kid and hit him straight in the head, you could potentially look at a match penalty there, right? You just kind of have to decide how the game is going, what his intention is, game management at that point. If it's been a clean game and it's an accidental up high, you still have to go at least 2-10. If 2 guys have been going at it the whole game and the guy takes a run at a guy and goes straight to his head, go match penalty there if that's what you think they deserve, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Peterson, you got something?
Yeah, actually, I had a couple questions for you guys as a new official. So one thing I seem to be struggling with a lot of the games that I've done, it's skill level, understanding perhaps intent versus simply somebody not having hand-eye coordination, falling all over, 2 players running into each other, kind of a thing. Mind you, I went from doing Pee-wee games, and then I think my 4th game, I had a men's league game over at the county ice rink, which was completely night and day different from what I had been doing before. So I feel like one of the things that I'm struggling with as a new official is understanding where there was intent and where somebody may have very well committed a penalty versus somebody who doesn't have balance at that age to be able to hold themselves upright. And then, of course, it looks like something could be perhaps one way versus another. Coaches are screaming, of course, as you skate by. That was one thing. The other thing I was going to bring up too for some help with understanding bantam age. We had a game last week that I did And I'll be honest, looking back, my game management could have been better. There were some things that I missed. The game started to get really chippy back and forth. Refs are screaming. And one thing I noticed that it kind of focused around is you have a difference in height and size with some of these kids at these ages. There's a 14-year-old kid who on skates was probably 6'4", and I'd say he was probably weighing close to 150, 160 pounds versus these other kids that are smaller kids. When that bigger kid goes in to make body contact, his hitting area is going to be completely different on that little kid versus what it's going to be on somebody that's his same size. And of course, the coaches, they're going ballistic as soon as he would make contact, saying that's a head hit, because it's like, well, I'm trying to understand kind of the balance. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because, he's a big kid and he's only got so much space to be able to work on as he's trying to get physical with some of these other players. So that's kind of what I was hoping I could get your guys' feedback on.
No, for sure. So your first point to knowing like what's intent, and that I think honestly as a new official, I think that just comes with time. You'll know like, okay, this is a D4 game. I could potentially have guys that aren't the best skaters. I think over time you're like, oh, I couldn't stop, and he just ran into a guy, but then he kind of uses that as a crutch, right? Like, oh, I just couldn't stop, to run into guys to cause problems, right? I think over time you'll just kind of become more familiar and more comfortable with that as you go. I mean, I don't think there's any way to like train you to know what guys' intents are, right? Like it just kind of comes as you work more. And then to your second point, yes, Bantam's checking age division. So USA Hockey states that the onus is on the player delivering the hit. So if you're 6'4", playing against a bunch of guys that are 5'4", 5 feet tall, my suggestion honestly would be don't check them, because if you hit him in the head, it's head contact. Straight up. The onus is on the player delivering the hit. Okay, so like you say, if he hits a player in the head, I don't care if the kid's head is waist high on the kid. Don't check him. Like that's really the only way we can keep those kids safe, right? Yep. Onus is on the player. If that's you're 6'4", it can be good maybe when he gets older, but right now I would use angling. I would bump kids off. I wouldn't just go hit, because chances are he's probably gonna hit guys in the head, and you probably, you should call head contact if that's the case.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on checking, good checks, bad checks, anything you guys have had in your games? I want to spend a few minutes on Horizon just so everybody can kind of get a quick glance of what we're doing here in the next month or so.
You got Devin that's got a question.
Oh, go ahead.
It's not a checking question, so I'll try and make it quick. I have a question around interference or hooking or whatever else, and it has to do with people who would be side by side, and then the one person putting his stick down in front of the other guy on his stick. And I'm getting confused between the fact that as long as I don't turn over the blade, I could put my stick on his stick to hold it down. But if the puck's not around, that's interference, or is it hooking? And off of a face-off, you can do it for a minute, but for not too long. I had a game where I called it one way, one situation, because I'm like, hey, he was just on your stick. The puck was going by. That was effective. And the other one, he did it after the face-off for an extended period of time, in my opinion. So that was. So my question is, what is a penalty with the stick over there, and when do I call interference versus hooking?
Okay, well, without seeing like specific examples or anything like that, you don't want to take away two guys kind of like battling for position, right? You can use your size and speed to battle. If you're hooking over the top, things like that, obviously you want to kind of nullify that.
If you're side by side and you're grabbing the stick and then just placing it down to stop them from moving forward,
letter of the law, that's interference, right? Like, is the player trying to get through him to a puck? Is the puck in between their skates? Are they battling? Like,
The intent is to hold them up, and it wasn't to really for the puck per se. So that would have been
interference. Sure.
If the puck was there and he was trying to stop him from getting to it by positioning himself in front of the other one and his stick is most of that position, then it's okay.
Just like I say, it's just that like if the puck's like down in their skates and they're kind of battling, you don't want to take away like some competitive battling there. But if it's like done in a way of holding the player up to not allow him to get to certain area of the ice, to get through you, to get past you, to gain possession of the puck, then maybe, like I say, it's just kind of without seeing like a.
Yeah, it is tough without a video. But in the face-off situation, they did the face-off, the puck left the circle, it's in the corner, and the one guy continued to essentially use that positioning to hold him from making any progress in any direction. That's interference. Correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep.
When is it hooking versus interference?
I mean, in that case, right, like if he's holding him up to get to a certain spot, I would call interference. The hooking, I would probably give more if the player is like moving with the puck or you know, like he has the puck and the guy is impeding him with his stick, then I would probably go a hook there. But if they're kind of battling without possession or anything, that's probably when you go interference.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Bentley, did you have another question?
Yes. Before I started doing reffing, I asked, and I'm still wondering, how do you determine how long penalties are? Like, some coaches say they're a minute and a half, and like sometimes it's like 2 minutes. How are we for certain it's like 2 or 1/2?
Yeah, so it's essentially up to the league. They can decide. USA Hockey did put that in their rule book recently, where they can decide based upon period length, 12 minutes, 13 minutes. I know like County, the youth has 12-minute periods. Their team, they run like a minute 30 minors, 4-minute majors, 8-minute misconducts. Just depends. High school runs the 2, 5, 10. Each league gets to decide themselves. So there's no like black and white, this is this is that. It just depends on what each league decides to do.
All right. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yep. Brett, did you have another question, or your hand's still raised? I was just wondering if you had another.
Yeah, that was me forgetting to remove it. Sorry about that.
Oh, good.
I actually just thought of something.
Okay.
I'm noticing at some of the different venues, the use of the pins in the net seems to vary for age groups. Do you guys know what we should and shouldn't be doing as far as when we use those and don't?
I know mites and I want to say mites and it's been so long since I've done a squirt game, but mites and squirts, I want to say don't, or does squirts do?
It's mites and squirts. No peg.
And peewees and above should have pegs.
Okay.
Just to help with game flow, keeping nets on, things like that.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, everybody see my screen? Everybody's really excited.
Yeah,
I know we're excited to get to Horizon Web Ref. I know you've seen a ton of emails from us to go out. We need everybody to make sure they've gotten logged in. I'm going to go in under my other one just so you can kind of see what you need to do. So over here on the right, everyone just needs to make sure they go under their personal profile over here. Please update your address as best as possible. That'll help with scheduling, right? Scheduling you at rinks closer, same as Horizon. Just go down each of these and please upload everything that you possibly can. Please if you can please do your birthday so schedulers can know if we're scheduling youth games and youth officials, how old you are to make sure we're getting the proper age officials on the proper games. I would definitely set up your text messaging. You'll get a text message every time you get a game, a new game, a game change, anything like that. You can add You can synchronize calendars, things like that to your account as well. Just different preferences. Other info, you can put in your certification level and your USA Hockey number, emergency contacts, just different things. So please go in and update all of those. And then also, we will be moving to direct deposit. So to get paid for games that you work, obviously, so we'll start using the scheduling system, games you work in January. So your payment that you receive in February for January games will be through direct deposit. So please go in and set up a bank account. It's just like a checking. They just need a routing number. You can do a bank card, a savings account. So please make sure you go in and do that. That'll be the only way to get paid, starting with February checks. It can be difficult. I've had some people reach out to me. So if you guys need help, I know I've had a few people actually need to contact their bank to make sure they've got the correct information. So just if you guys have issues with that, please reach out. Biggest difference. So when you go into your availability calendar, right now in Arbiter, you're just open to work all the time. You have to go in and physically block yourself out, right? So you're just available. So Horizon is the complete opposite. So when you come in here, we go to December. Okay, so when you come in, you're going to be blocked. So if you don't go in and change anything, the schedulers are never going to see you. They're never going to schedule you games because you're never going to show available. You won't pop up on the screen. Okay, so there's multiple different ways. You can actually go up and do your reoccurring availability. It's just a different screen. You could do that in Arbiter. If you work, Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, go in and block out Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Simple. Okay, or you can go in just day by day, and there's a bunch of different options. So you can say you're available all day, which will turn it green. You're not available at all, just leave it red. You can do you're available before a time. If you're not available from 4 p.m. on, just say you're available before 4 p.m. So there's available before, available after, available between. If you can work a game between noon and 4 one day, say you're available between noon and 4, right? So that's the biggest difference. That I know it's November 30th and January's a month away. Ideally, we would like to schedule games in that 2 to 3 week out range. If we get further out than that, things seem to change a lot. Games get added. As a scheduler, I hate to give a guy like 1 or 2 games and then they add a third, and then it just makes it hard to schedule. So 2 to 3 weeks out ideally. So here in the next couple of weeks, if you can go in and try and get your calendars for January all set to your best of your ability. You can always go in and open more time later as well. The biggest one for January right now, obviously, is the 14th through the 17th is when that next My Hockey tournament, and we are going to need absolutely everybody and as much time as you can possibly give for that Friday through the championship games go through Monday. I believe that's, what is that? Is it President? What's that holiday? I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden.
MLK.
Anyway, so MLK, thank you. If you don't have school, for you younger guys, if you're not in school on Friday, please open up your all day Friday. If you're not in school on Monday, please open up Monday. For guys that work, if you can possibly, like say, the money for these tournaments are going to be there. We've worked out contracts with these My Hockey to make the money significantly better, to hopefully help guys that are interested in maybe taking a day off work Friday or Monday if you have to work, and getting 4 or 5 games and making, $300-400 bucks. So please go in and do your calendars so the schedulers can start getting in there and looking and see like who's available and how the system's going to work. We're kind of going to be learning on the fly as well. I guess really quick right there, I'll stop. Does anybody have any questions on Horizon from just the few things we've looked at so far?
We got some questions in the chat. Andy.
Oh, sorry, I don't even have that pulled up. Let me stop sharing my screen here. Okay, let me get over here. Brendan, Josh, is it possible to set up multiple bank accounts for direct deposit or just one? That's a great question. I think you can add another bank account. I just want to say it's going to, there is that $10 setup fee. So I think you'll probably have to pay. Oh, nope, you can't. Maximum number of bank accounts allowed is one. Sorry, bad information. So I just tried to add another one on mine and it said no. So I guess you can delete one account if you need to switch and then add another one. Can you block rinks? Yes, you can. So in your, let me share my screen again. Share rinks. Okay, so under there's a, where is it? Administrative forms. Why is it not?
Under the availability calendar.
That's it.
And it's called.
Sorry,
block
I'm still.
locations.
Calendar preferences. No, maybe not. You can block rinks. I know there's a setting. I just. Availability. Did somebody say where they saw that?
It's in where you go to the calendar and it should say block locations.
I mean, I know. Let me go out into the actual, this one. Anyway, there is a way to do it. I'll figure it out.
Andy, if you go to Horizon Web, if you go back to the home screen and you go like availability, calendar availability, it's right there. It says officials availability. The tab to the far right is block locations and it has them already loaded.
There it is. Okay, I'm on it. Yep, so you can go block locations, you can do the drop down menu, and you can select which rinks. There we go. I knew there was a way. Okay, what else? Do you know if it is based on game start time or expected game length? Available until 3 p.m. on a day, I will show available. Yeah, so it won't. So if you block out, like say you're available until 4, if that game doesn't end by 4 o'clock, you won't show available for that game. If that's your question, Kemper.
I have a question.
Sure, Bentley.
So I've tried asking a couple of refs, or one ref that I know. On Arbiter Sports, do I have to fill out the payment information to start getting paid for games?
Okay, so for Arbiter right now, we're not using Arbiter Pay. It's still done
I just want to
by
make sure
a check in the mail.
Yeah, so just don't worry about that section.
No, don't do anything with Arbiter Pay. We don't use that. Right now, we'll just get your address that's in the Arbiter. So if you worked games did you work any games in October? Or did you just start in November?
I may have started in November, may have been October.
Okay,
can't
so
quite
we'll
remember.
pay, so we just pay once a month. It'll be the same once we get into Horizon.
Yeah.
The direct deposit will cut down on a couple of days, so we're not waiting for actual mail to go. But here's the deal.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of questions and stuff around pay and stuff last month. So just to give you guys a quick insight on things. So we have to get everything verified. We have to get billing sent out to the associations, right? So just to give you guys an idea, so in October, referee paychecks were over $70,000 out that we were paying out to people across the association, $70,000. So as a nonprofit organization, we don't have at most times $70,000 just sitting in our bank account. Okay, so we have to send out billing and hopefully get a few of the associations, if not most, to get their bills paid for October quickly so we can send out checks. So yes, last month we were a little slow on our end. Understood. We try to get things out by the 15th, but that's not always possible. And there are certain people that we have to hold checks back until we get paid from high school and the different associations before we can pay, so we don't have bounce checks floating around out there. We are working on raising our kiddie fees and things like that to try and build a bigger base in our bank account so that we can just pay out without having those issues, but that is something we are dealing with right now. So that just is a little insight on pay and things like that. So yes, we're shooting to get you guys all paid by the 15th of every month, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. Hopefully with the direct deposit and things like that, and once we can build our base and our account a little bit bigger, we don't have those issues. Okay, any other questions on Horizon WebRef? Please just go in, play around with it. There's a million settings on this thing. I've been messing around with it for 2 months now, and I still don't know what I'm doing in there. It's a lot, but it's a lot more user-friendly. It'll help the schedulers in the long run. It'll help us as an association with direct deposit and keeping things more organized and things like that in the long run. And 2, it'll connect all of our juniors and college and guys working other leagues all in one spot. So it'll help the schedulers be able to see all of their schedules together rather than looking across 2 or 3 platforms to figure out who's available and who's not. So. Okay, that's all I have for tonight. Sorry we kind of ran a little long. Feel free, I'll stay on if anybody wants to hang around. If you have any other questions, let me know. And you don't need to wait for these to reach out. Send me an email. I'd be more than happy to help any way I can. So appreciate you guys' time.
Okay, well, thank you.